Hey yo, what's good everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bros Talk MMA. I'm your
Shama.
host Utica, undeniably the illest cat around, aka Mr. Make This Pick Real Quick. I'm here with my bro host extraordinaire.
You know what it is. It's Ray Bucks. It's Chuckle Jordan. It's Mr. Give me my belt. Hand me my crown.
I mean, this man definitely deserves the crown after last week's performance, but we'll get into that later on. Today we're here to cover the last card of 2024. It's a fight night card taking place in Tampa Bay, Florida. It's been 42 episodes, my bro.
That's right.
It's the first year of Bros Talk. We look forward to many more years of bringing you all these picks and predictions. But to start things off in this particular event, we got a strawweight bout in the women's division. It's going to be Piera Rodriguez going up against Josefine Knutsson. We got Rodriguez coming in 2-2 in the UFC, 9-2 overall, and 3-2 in their last 5 fights. We got Knutsson coming in. They are undefeated across the board, both 2-0 in the UFC and 8-0 overall. My pick is going to be with Knutsson on this one by either decision or KO. They're going to be the younger and slightly smaller of the two fighters. Kickboxer that, likes to march forward, pressure their fighters. I would say they're still a technical point fighter, though, because they don't really necessarily lead with power. They're gonna need to close the distance on Rodriguez and just get him up against the cage and avoid getting to any grappling exchanges unless some sort of advantage presents itself. We got Rodriguez coming in. They're going to be the older of the fighters by 4 years, slightly longer of the two. Has an edge in the grappling, but prefers striking due to what they've noticed. They've found some power in their hands, so I feel like they're starting to, fall in love with, knocking their opponents out. I do believe though they should mix in their grappling just because they're going to be the one that has the edge in that department. It's just they're going to need to manage their gas tank, and their fight IQ can sometimes be a little bit questionable. And they can be somewhat of a slow starter at times. But yeah, my pick's gonna be with Knutsson on this one.
I think if anybody picks anybody else other than Knutsson, they're nuts, son.
What the hell, boy?
No, I've got to go. I've got to go with Knutsson as well. You know what I mean? She's an undefeated fighter. You know how much I like my undefeated fighters. I think she has a few more routes to victory. Do I think this is going to be a snooze fest? Yes, more than likely it will be. But I do think Knutsson gets it done in a decision win over Rodriguez.
For sure. All right, folks. Moving on, we have a bantamweight bout in the men's division. We got Davey Grant going up against Ramon Tavares. We got Grant coming in 6-6 in the UFC, 13-7 overall, and 2-3 in their last 5 fights. We got Tavares coming in. They are 1-0 in the UFC, 10-2 overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 fights. My pick is actually going to be with Grant on this one by decision or KO. They're going to be the older fighter by 8 years. They're a striker with some grappling. I would say they're pretty durable. Definitely a dog fighter. They've never been KO'd in their career. They're going to have the edge in the grappling, in my opinion. But most likely they're just going to pour on volume, pressure Tavares. They've faced stiffer competition in their career, and even have had some, sketchy decisions that didn't go their way. But they've definitely fought, some of the best in the division for sure. They just need to avoid the power of Tavares. And I would say just they've had a long layoff since their last fight, but that would probably be my only concern. Tavares is going to be the younger of the two, definitely a striker with power. They got some grappling, but they're going to look primarily to just keep this on the feet. They're a dog fighter as well, but they have been chinned here recently in some of their recent bouts. Hasn't necessarily faced the level of competition that Grant has at this point in their career, especially only having one fight in the UFC, which was against an opponent that they had to face on the Contender Series before they even got into the UFC, and they got beat in that fight. And actually came in, I want to say, as a they came in and they
Sorry, mate.
actually I'm not sure about that one. I'm just gonna keep that one. But yeah, they're gonna need to clip and hurt Grant early, in my opinion, to get them up out of here. The longer the fight goes, the more it plays into Grant's hands.
I'd have to agree with you there, but I'm still going to go with Ramon Tavares. I think he does need to get in and out of there early, prior to, you know what I mean, the mid of second round. He does have the power in his hands and in his strikes. I think he can get Davey Grant out of there. He just needs to do it, but I've got to pick him because he is a finisher. Davey Grant, great fighter, been in the game for a long time. I just don't think he gets it done against Roman Tavares unless Tavares allows him to go take him all the way to the third round and wear him out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, y'all. Moving on to a women's flyweight bout. We have Miranda Maverick going up against Jamey-Lyn Horth. We got Maverick coming in 7-3 in the UFC, 14-5 overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 fights. We got Horth coming in 2-1 in the UFC, 7-1 overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 fights. I'm gonna be going with Maverick in this one by either decision or sub. They're gonna be the younger and smaller of the two fighters. Well-rounded, but I feel like they have the edge in the wrestling, so they'll want to get this to the ground, and try and gain the advantage like early, I would say. Their confidence can be shaky at times when facing adversity in fights, but I feel like their last fight they kind of shored that up a little bit. And I would just say if they have a healthy mixture of grappling and striking, they'll keep Horth guessing, and that'd probably be their best path to victory. Horth is going to be the older of the fighters by 7 years, bigger of the two, well-rounded, and could possibly have the edge in the striking between the two, but we'll have to see. I would say though that their best route to victory is keeping this on the feet, unless they're able to find entries for takedowns and if they feel confident in that department. But I would just say if they're able to keep this on the feet, that'd probably be their best route to victory. But I'm going with Maverick on this one.
I've got to disagree with you. I've got to go with Jamey-Lyn Horth on this one. Miranda Maverick. Oh, actually.
Psych!
Okay, I was about to say, you make a last minute change on me?
No, I did not make a last minute change. I've got to agree with you. I've got to go with Miranda Maverick. She is the younger of the two fighters. I think she has a few more routes to victory. She's not. She's a little bit more of I wouldn't say a finisher, but she's going to put more volume on Jamey-Lyn Horth. And so I see her having a few more routes to victory, whether it be a decision victory, be it through grappling and a submission, or possibly with the hands. I doubt it was going to be with the hands, and to be honest with you, I really do feel like this is going to be a decision victory. But I think she does have the possibilities to end her in some of the other ways. So I've got to go with Miranda Maverick on this one as well.
Awesome. Okay. Moving on to the featherweight division. We have a bout between Miles Johns going up against Felipe Lima. We got Johns coming in. They are 6-2 with 1 no contest in the UFC, 15-2 with that 1 no contest overall, and 3-1 and 1 no contest in their last 5 fights. We got Lima coming in. They're 1-0 in the UFC, 13-1 overall, and are actually in the midst of a 13-fight win streak. They lost their first professional bout and then never looked back after that. We got Lima. I'm going to be going with them by either KO or decision. They're going to be the younger, slightly longer of the two fighters. A dangerous striker. They got a little bit of grappling and takedown defense. Natural featherweight between the two, and they should use their length to keep distance and just piece up Johns. I don't even think grappling will be necessary. Johns is going to be the older of the two fighters by 4 years, slightly taller, and pretty well rounded, but typically just prefers to strike. They're going to have the edge in the grappling, which is why I believe Lima should just go ahead and just avoid those exchanges. The one thing that John's got's going against him, though, is that they're moving up from bantamweight. So it'll be, we'll have to see whether they are able to translate that weight positively with either power or just maybe not feeling as depleted after weight cuts and being able to bring that cardio up a little bit. But that's what I would say is been a setback for them in the past is being able to close out fights. They're gonna need to close the distance in this one, mix in that grappling, but manage that energy. If they hope to win this one, I'm gonna be going with Lima.
I've got to agree with the Lima pick as well. It always scares me when fighters are going up in weight or down in weight, because you're not used to that. You haven't been doing it. Felipe Lima has been fighting at that weight for quite a while now, so he's a pretty comfortable 145 pounder. Miles Johns hasn't been pressed in that particular weight class, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. But I would go with Felipe Lima.
For sure, for sure. All right, y'all. Moving on to another featherweight bout, we have Sean Woodson going up against Fernando Padilla. We got Woodson coming in at 6-1 with one draw in the UFC, 12-1 with that one draw overall, and 4-0 with that one draw in their last 5 fights. We got Padilla coming in; they are 2-1 in the UFC, 16-5 overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 fights. I'm gonna be going with Padilla in this one by either sub or decision. They're going to be the younger and slightly smaller of the two. I mean, and these are two tall, lanky dudes, but in this particular bout, he's going to be the smaller of the two. Pretty well rounded. Should have the edge in the grappling in this one, and I would definitely encourage that they use that grappling. It's going to give them more routes to victory. Definitely going to need to close the distance against Woodson and get him up against the cage, try and find a takedown, and then search for a submission. Woodson's going to be the older of the two fighters by 5 years, slightly taller and longer. He's a striker. I wouldn't say grappling's necessarily one of his strong suits. So he's definitely going to be trying to use his length, keep the fight at distance, and on the feet. That's really all he needs to do is just keep Padilla at this length for the entire fight, or throwing those straight kicks and just basically point fight their way to victory. But I just feel like Padilla is going to be a little bit more of the aggressor. Therefore, I'm going to go with Padilla in this one.
I've got to go with Sean Woodson. He's just got too awkward of a body type and too awkward of a fighting style. You know what I mean? We talk about their reach in the tail of the tape, but Sean Woodson, not that I've ever measured, but he's got to have the longest legs in the 145 class, if not in every class, to be honest with you. Like, the man has no torso. It's all legs. And so he's able to keep you at distance with those kicks, and he's very good at kicking. In addition to that, he does have the reach advantage with the hands, and he does fight that style where he just keeps you at distance. That being said, I just don't know if Fernando Padilla has a answer for that. Very few people do have an answer for Sean Woodson because he just is an awkward fighter and body type to fight against. So for that reason, I've got to go with Sean Woodson.
I feel you. Moving up a weight class to the lightweight division, we got Drakkar Klose going up against Joel Alvarez. We got Klose coming in 9-2 in the UFC, 15-2 with one draw overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 fights. We got Alvarez coming in; they are 6-2 in the UFC, 21-3 overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 fights. I'm gonna be going with Klose in this one by either decision or KO. They're going to be the older fighter by 5 years, the smaller of the two. They're a striker with some wrestling and, good takedown defense. They're a strong fighter and have good cardio. They're going to want to close the distance and make this one dirty. possibly mix in some grappling if they're able to find an advantage. But personally, I feel like they carry enough power in the hands, and with Alvarez being a grappling specialist, they should probably just avoid grappling at all costs, outside of maybe just like some up against the cage and the clinch type situations. We got Joao Alvarez coming in. They're going to be the younger of the two. Yeah, like significantly bigger. He's like 6'3" and is going to have like a 7-inch reach on Klose. So that's going to be tough to get inside. But with him being a grappling specialist, I feel like that's what he's going to be looking to do, is to make this to close the distance. And so I just feel like these guys are going to collide, and I feel like Klose just needs to just pepper him with shots. And Alvarez, he's going to try and, get this to the ground immediately and start searching for submissions. So although Alvarez just he looks like, he's going to be tough. I don't know how Klose is going to, solve this puzzle, but I just believe he can. So I'm going to be going with Klose in this one. Who you got?
I've got to agree with Jakar Klose as a pick. But this fight is a tough fight to pick, and I believe it's going to come down to who's going to be able to impose whose will on each other. So is Klose going to be able to keep it standing, or is Joao Alvarez going to be able to get it down to the ground to get into a submission situation? That's really what this fight boils down to. Who's going to pick the route to victory and be dominant in that direction? I've got to go with Joe Klose. I believe he can get it done over Joao Alvarez because Klose isn't terrible at grappling. He just, I think, is a step below Alvarez. But I do think Jakar Klose's hands are far better than Alvarez's. So that's the reason I got to go with Jakar Klose.
Definitely. Staying in the lightweight division, we have a bout between Michael Johnson going up against Ottman Azaitar. We got Johnson coming in 14-15 in the UFC, 22-19 overall, and 3-2 in their last 5 fights. We got Azaitar coming in 2-2 in the UFC, 13-2 overall, and 3-2 in their last 5 fights. I'm gonna be going with Azaitar in this one by either submission or KO. They're gonna be the younger and smaller of the two fighters, powerful in the hands, with a possible edge in the grappling as well. They've been chinned in their last 2 fights and took a nice little layoff since then. So that's definitely a concern of mine. It's been about a year and 6 months since they've been in the cage. But I believe that they're able to close the distance, pressure, and even mix in a little bit of grappling with Johnson just to keep them guessing. They'll be able to either find a way to get them down to the ground and submit them, or keep them guessing so much so that they don't see the next thing coming and can possibly catch them with a nice overhand or something like that. But they are going to have to manage their energy, being that they've been out the game for a while. Not sure how they're gonna, what their gas tank's gonna look like. Johnson's gonna be the older of the two by 4 years, a bigger fighter, definitely a striker with some power, decent takedown defense. They've just been inconsistent at the UFC level here as of late. Definitely a formidable vet, especially of this division, and is definitely going to give Azaitar a run for their money. But I feel like the only way they're able to do that is if they're able to keep this on the feet, keep it at distance, and just find openings to throw those power shots, and just avoid the grappling. And I believe that that's how they take this home. But I'm gonna be going with the Azaitar in this one.
I've got to disagree with you. I've got to go with Michael Johnson. He is the squirrely vet. Azaitar has been chinned in his last 2 fights, and then, like you said, has had that almost full year layoff. And you know what I mean. You've got back-to-back chinnings and a long time laid off. You know what I mean. You're putting a bad chin and ring rust together as a combination that I can't believe is going to win. For that reason, I've got to go with Michael Johnson. He's a middle of the road fighter at the 155 division. but I think he has enough ring time, you know what I mean, to take down Azaitar. He does have good hands. Not the greatest grappler, but does have decent grappling defense. So I think he gets it done in this one, but this is another close bout. Well, I take Michael Johnson for the win.
For sure, for sure. All right, moving on to the light heavyweight division. We got a bout between Navajo Stirling going up against Tuco Tokkos. We got Stirling coming in making their UFC debut. Undefeated at 5-0. We got my guy Tuco Tokkos coming in 0-1 in the UFC. 10-4 overall and 3-2 in their last 5 fights. I'm gonna be going with my guy Tokkos in this one by either decision or KO. They're gonna be the older fighter by 7 years, less rangy and kind of lacking in the length compared to Stirling. They're gonna be a striker. I would say they'll have the edge in the grappling in this bout. So I believe if they mix that in and close the distance, lean on Navajo, keep them up against the cage and not allow them to, bust out that kickboxing. I think that they can take it home. We got Stirling coming in as the younger and longer of the two fighters. Striker, like I said, making their debut. Not a lot of info on them coming from me. But just seeing their background and them being a fighter over at the city kickboxing gym, he's definitely gonna have the striking on point. So he should just keep the fight at distance and just pick Tokkos apart and get some cage time. But I think that if Tokkos is able to get him to the ground, it's gonna make things interesting. I'm going with my guy Tokkos.
I'm glad to disagree with you. Again, I mean, I've got to go with Navajo Stirling. He is on a 5-fight win streak currently. So nobody has the blueprint to beat his ass. Tuco, you know what I mean, does have that blueprint, unfortunately. Navajo Stirling, I think, wins in the striking. I don't know much about his grappling. I don't really believe he has any, to be honest with you. But I think his striking can make up for that. And as we can see, there's been an influx of kickboxers into the UFC right now, and they're all doing pretty damn good. So that being said, I've got to go with Navajo Stirling.
For sure. All right, moving down to the men's bantamweight division, we have a bout between Daniel Marcos going up against Adrian Yanez. Or Yanez. We got Marcos coming in 3-1 with 1 no contest in the UFC, 16-0 with that 1 no contest overall, and 4-0 with that 1 no contest in their last 5 fights. So technically, this dude's undefeated.
Perfect.
Yanez is 6-0 in the 6-2 in the UFC, 17-5 overall, and 3-2 in their last 5 fights. I'm gonna be going with Marcos in this one by decision or KO. Definitely a striker. No real grappling going on here. Really good cardio. Wins a majority of their fights by decision. Point fighter, but they will find finishes if given the opportunity. I would say just keeping this fight at distance and picking Yanez apart and just taking him to decision is his best bet. We got Yanez coming in. They are a dangerous striker. Somewhat well-rounded, but definitely are going to prefer to stand up. From what I've seen, that's their preference. But if I was them, I would definitely mix in a little bit of the grappling since they have some of that in their arsenal. They've been chinned though here recently and a little exposed in their last few fights. Not too diverse in their striking, if you ask me. Kind of a questionable gas tank. And basically they're just gonna have to come out guns a-blazing, close the distance quick, pressure Marcos, and try and get him out of there quick. Because once again, if this goes to decision, I just feel like it's gonna play into the hands of Marcos, and that's gonna be my pick, Marcos.
I agree with that pick. Marcos has the ability to take him into deep water if he needs to. Yanez needs to get him out of there as soon as possible. I just don't think he necessarily has the capability to do that. Because I just think Marcos is a better fighter. So I've got to go. I got to go with Marcos on this one.
Okay. Moving back to the light heavyweight division, we got a bout between Dustin Jacoby going up against Vitor Petrino. We got Jacoby coming in 7-6 with one draw in the UFC, 19-9 with that one draw overall, and 1-4 in their last 5 fights. We got Petrino coming in 4-1 in the UFC, 11-1 overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 fights. I'm gonna be going with Petrino in this one by either KO or decision. They're gonna be the younger and slightly longer of the two fighters. Powerful striker. Definitely just needs to close the distance, get them up against the cage, and just start going to work. Their last fight, I wouldn't take that too much into consideration. They definitely shit the bed their last performance, but I just think that was due to poor fight IQ. I mean, they literally just gave Anthony Smith a guillotine, and then he was able to lock it in, and even though Petrino's a pretty powerful dude, he just wasn't able. Once it was synced in, he just couldn't do nothing. Definitely believe he's learned his lesson since then. Jacoby's coming in as the older fighter by 9 years, slightly taller of the two. Definitely a volume and point striker. He's been chinned here recently. And so he's gonna need to just keep things at distance and try and take this to a decision as well. If Petrino is able to touch his chin at any time, I feel like it's gonna be night for him. So I'm gonna be going with Petrino in this one, barring any dumbass decisions he may make in the cage.
I agree with you fully. As long as he keeps his fight IQ high and he doesn't make terrible decisions like he did with Anthony Smith, he'll be fine. Justin Jacoby's I would say in my opinion, you know what I mean, no hate towards him, but he's on a downhill slide. He's not the Dustin Jacoby from back in the day. So I've got to just say that's why Victor Petrino is going to take this one down. Like you said, barring any nonsense. If we can just, you know what I mean, keep it on the feet, keep the strikes going, Jacoby's going to sit there and throw blows with him for the most part. So just make that happen and try to stay out of the grappling exchanges, bro.
Boom. All right, moving down to the men's flyweight division, we got a fight between Manal Kopp going up against Bruno Silva. We got Kopp coming in. They are 4-3 in the UFC, 19-7 overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 fights. We got Silva coming in. They are 4-2 with one no contest in the UFC, 14-5 with 2 draws and one no contest overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 fights. I'm gonna be going with Kopp in this one by either decision or KO. They're the younger and slightly bigger fighter. They're definitely a dangerous striker with grappling if it goes there. They'll likely look to strike though, because unless they're in an advantageous position in the grappling, they really don't got much to offer when they're on their back. Kind of even I notice it's hard for them to get back to their feet sometimes. So they just need to close the distance, walk Silva down, and just start hitting him with power shots. And just I would say just try to avoid the grappling in this one. Silva's gonna be the older fighter by 3 years, slightly smaller of the two, a dangerous striker with grappling as well, which I believe he may have the edge in. So I just think that, they could keep the fight at distance, and throw power shots. But then I would also mix in that grappling just to kind of keep Kopp guessing, make him respect you at that point. So that way he's not, the aggressor in the fight. But I just don't believe that's how it'll go down. Kopp's faced some pretty stiff competition in comparison to Bruno Silva. So I'm going to be going with Kopp in this one.
We gotta agree with the Kopp pick. Kopp's he's got a high fight IQ. He's not necessarily the most exciting fighter all the time, but he generally gets it done. He generally has a little bit above average volume going against most fighters. So even though he takes a lot of fights to decision, I think they're more definitive decision wins than just kind of leaving it up to the judges and hoping that they notice that you had 4 more punches than the other guy did. So I've got to go now, Cat Cop over Bruno Silva in this particular bout.
Nice. All right, moving up to the men's featherweight division in the co-main event of the evening. We have Cub Swanson going up against Billy Quarantillo. We got Swanson coming in 14-10 in the UFC, 29-14 overall, and 2-3 in their last 5 fights. We got Quarantillo coming in 6-4 in the UFC, 18-6 overall, and 2-3 in their last 5 fights. My pick's going to be with Swanson in this one by either decision or KO. They're going to be the older fighter of the two by 5 years. I believe he's in his 40s as well. Slightly shorter of the two. I would say he's pretty well-rounded, just given his length of time, in MMA. And I mean, this dude's basically just fought in the WEC and UFC. I would say he leans towards the striking. He has some nasty fucking body shots that he throws. He's a dog fighter with good cardio. And yeah, I feel like if he just closes the distance, pressures Quarantillo, and lands those, I'm telling you, nasty, nasty body shots, especially on someone with Quarantillo's frame, I believe that that'll be all he needs to take this one. Given that I would say just needs to avoid grappling unless he sees an advantage there. Quarantillo, he's going to be the younger and taller fighter of the two. Striker with okay ground game. Not as powerful, but definitely pours on the volume. Decent cardio. But I believe in this fight, he's gonna want to get Swanson out of there. It's gonna be one of those fights where the longer it goes, I believe it plays into the hands of Swanson. So he just needs to keep Swanson at length. Just fight him from a distance, pepper him with shots. He could point fight to victory, but I just feel like I said, if this goes the distance, I feel like Swanson's gonna land the more powerful and like impactful shots of the fight. So it'll take Quarantillo really pouring on the volume and just dominating the strike count if he plans to take this one home. Mix in the grappling maybe, but I don't know. I think this is gonna probably just be a stand-up fight, and in which case I'm gonna be taking Swanson.
I've got to agree with you. As far as it being a stand-up fight, I don't agree with you on who's going to win that stand-up. I've got to go with Billy Quarantillo. Cub Swanson, again, is another one of those fighters that I believe is, unfortunately, on his way down the hill. He's got more fights behind him than he does in front of him. Billy Quarantillo is just, the younger, the taller striker. I think Cub Swanson's power, albeit very high, is not so high that he outclasses Billy Quarantillo with it. That being said, I think they can sit and exchange fight, or blows. And Quarantillo is not necessarily just going to get chinned by Cub Swanson, especially if he can kind of allow Cub, because Cub's going to come out pretty, strong in that first round. I think if he can weather that first round storm and then kind of get into a groove, catch distance, keep his head off the center line, Billy Quarantillo can get this done against Cub Swanson.
All right. Okay, moving on to
the main event of the evening,
and what will be the last fight taking place under the UFC banner in 2024. We have a welterweight bout between Colby Covington going up against Joaquin Buckley. We got Covington coming in on relative short notice. They're going to be 12-4 in the UFC, 17-4 overall, and 2-3 in their last 5 fights. We got Buckley coming in 10-4 in the UFC, 20-6 overall, and are currently riding a 5-fight win streak. I'm gonna be going with Covington in this one. Not my favorite person in the world, but I'm gonna be going with him in this one by decision or submission. They're gonna be the older fighter by 6 years. slightly taller of the two. A wrestler with striking. I wouldn't say they carry any real power in their hands, but they definitely know how to pour on the volume. Definitely know how to just keep, the pressure on their opponents. They should have a slight edge in the grappling though, which should allow them to just, kind of mix it up, keep Buckley guessing, zap their energy even to an extent. They just need to avoid the power and not get, trapped up against the cage with Buckley. That's where he does some of his best work. The only thing that's concerning, is Covington's lack of cage time here recently. He's taken a couple long layoffs between fights, and so that's definitely a concern of mine. But I feel like, if he does, fucking typical Colby Covington, it's just gonna be too much, and he's gonna overwhelm Buckley. We got Buckley coming in, the younger and longer of the two fighters. Definitely he's going to be the more powerful of the two. He comes from a wrestling background, but I just feel like here recently he's just been so much of a striker and has had, these highlight KOs that he's just fell in love with, that aspect of his game. He has though become more measured in his fights rather than just coming out and swinging for the fences and just trying to put people's lights out. I would say that he should definitely just look to keep this fight at distance, find opening to throw those power strikes, and avoid grappling at all costs. He can sometimes, come off as one-dimensional, which is why I got to go with Covington in this one because I just feel like he's going to be able to just, shoot for takedowns. And when he's not shooting for takedowns, he's going to just, just touch him. He's just going to touch Buckley up just enough that if this ends up going to the cards, I think that this is going to play into Covington's favor. So yeah, I'm going to be going with Covington in this one.
I'm going to disagree with you. The last time this year, I'm going to disagree with you. And I got to go with Joaquin Buckley. Is it stylistically two different sides of the coin? Yes. Colby Covington is a pure wrestler. Joaquin Buckley does come from a wrestling background. I do get that. That's why I give Buckley a few more routes to victory because I think Colby Covington is better than him at wrestling. I don't think he outclasses him or makes him look terrible when he's in the wrestling game. Now, do I think Joaquin Buckley has way better hands than Colby Covington? Absolutely. I don't think Covington's going to be able to put volume necessarily on him. I don't think he's definitely not going to put power on Buckley, where I see Buckley being able to do that to Covington. I just think it's going to be a situation where if Joaquin Buckley can stay away from crazy grappling exchanges, he'll be all right. If Colby Covington can stay away from crazy striking exchanges, he'll be all right. But in this particular bout, I've got to go with Buckley. He's my guy for the end of the year. I think he gets it done against Colby Covington. Covington's have way too much time off. Ring rust is real. I do believe in it. And I just don't think he should have came back after having such a long layoff to a main event, even if it is just a fight night card. It should have been maybe against somebody a couple steps lower than a Joaquin Buckley, just to get his bearings and his cage time in.
I feel like what it is for me too is that I just feel like Covington knows something because originally this fight was supposed to be between Joaquin Buckley and Ian Gary. Ian Gary got offered the fight with Shavkat this past pay-per-view and fight card, which he lost, but still, gained credibility in being somebody who gave him a run for his money and, took the fight in general. A lot of cats were just ducking that fight. So with that schedule change, they had to find another opponent for Buckley, and Covington, he entered the game. So it's just like I feel like he didn't fight Ian Gary when offered that fight a couple of times. But yet, when Gary gets moved out of the equation and there's, a space he opted for Buckley. So it just makes me think that maybe he knows something. He's coming off of that loss against Leon Edwards for the title, his third straight title loss, vying for the title. So I think, he might be using Buckley to help, boost himself back into the, spotlight, and into like the title, not necessarily the title picture, but still, top contendership, maybe another fight can find himself back in that title picture again.
And see, the way I see it is I see him as doing the company a favor, just to stay in the good graces of, you know what I mean, the powers that to be. Yeah, I'll show up for the last fight of the year. I'll show up for a card that your main event has been changed.
Well, he's from Florida too, so
he's from it's not an easy. There's no travel there necessarily. So boom, like why not? Why not fight in front of my hometown crowd? Much rather fight a Joaquin Buckley than a Ian Gary. In my opinion, that's what he's thinking. So I think, you know what I mean, and like you said, he turned down those fights. So you know what I mean. You can only turn down so many before you need to start accepting some. And I think this is the one he decided to accept, because it would, if he is going to lose, it'll be the easier loss of the two.
I guess so. I guess losing to Buckley is like, okay, I can still maybe make one more run at it. Whereas if you lose to Gary, it's kind of like, well, this is the dude that's at the top of the division. Like, I'm pretty much never gonna see that title again.
Absolutely.
I see. All right. Well, that wraps up picks and predictions for the final time this year. It's been a pleasure, bro. Hundreds and hundreds of fights. Real quick, I guess then for the last time this year as well, you got any parlays for us, Parlay God?
I got one parlay, 3-pick parlay.
This card was weird. I don't got much for parlays either.
No. I'm gonna go first pick, Knutsson.
Real funny.
Second,
takes nuts.
That takes nuts, son.
Really, nigga?
I'm gonna go Marcos for my second and Petrino for my third.
Okay.
No spices that I want to put up there. I don't think. That's it. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it simple.
It's the 3-piece to end the year out, huh?
3-piece to end the year out.
I feel you.
I kind of want to get wild, but I'm just gonna go with the 3-piece.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm gonna be going with something pretty chill as well. I do got some spicy picks in there, but my base parlay is just gonna be a 2-pick. I'm gonna be going with Daniel Marcos as well, and Victor Petrino, or Vitor Petrino, my bad. And then I'm gonna add a spicy Swanson on there though, and I'm gonna add an extra spicy Covington on top of that.
Joaquin Buckley.
So it's definitely gonna be a 4-piece, half spicy to end the year out. Marcos and Petrino, I feel good about. Definitely the Swanson and Covington. Not gonna say those are gonna hit, but if I was gonna go with somebody, to make things interesting, because pretty sure Marcos and Petrino are gonna be favorites, so it's not gonna be like the most fucking,
Yeah, Covington, in my opinion, is going to be an underdog.
Yeah.
And Swanson, in my opinion, is going to be an underdog.
I'm not quite sure if he is. I know Tapology has him just a couple points ahead of Quarantillo. And I haven't got a chance to check the odds quite yet. Let's see. Right here it says Swanson will be the slight underdog.
Yeah.
So I get it. That's why I put him and Covington in there, because I know they're gonna be the underdogs, which will at least, bump that payout up a little if you're trying to, get something out of this. But hey, if you're just cool with some humble, profits, then let's go with Daniel Marcos and Petrino. Yeah, so once again, this was the last card of the year. We want to thank everybody who has watched and supported us throughout this first year of our channel. It's been awesome. This has been really, really fun for me, to be totally honest. I've had a really good time. You know, I get to chill with my bro. We get to bullshit about fights, which is something we were doing for free. Right. I mean, we're still doing it now, and we were doing it long before. So we just look forward to growing this channel and, you know, just bringing y'all more, you know, in-depth understanding of these fights, but still keeping it light and funny. You know, make sure that you're checking us out, you know, on Instagram. Make sure that you're following us on TikTok. Make sure that you like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And real quick, my bro fucking killed the last pay-per-view of the year in this past last week's event. He went 12-2 on the night. I was right there behind him. Had I not fucking picked sorry ass, I'm not gonna call him sorry ass Anthony Smith because he's obviously going through some things that night. But had I known he was going through some things, which is on me for not, you know, doing my research, definitely wouldn't have picked him knowing that he could give a shit about that fight going into it, given some personal circumstances, you know, sending my best to him and his team and stuff like that. But in terms of, you know, picks and bets, yeah, he fucking set me back. So I ended up going 11-3 on the night, one behind bro, giving him another fight up on me on the year. So even if with all the fights that me and him disagreed on in this one, even if I was to win every one of them, he's still going to beat me on the year. So congratulations, bro. I'm just calling it early. You win the head-to-head between me and you on the year. And also just in general, in picks and predictions overall. Congratulations to Mr. Give me my belt, hand me my crown, Chico Jordan, Rey Mysterio Jr., Ray Bucks.
Appreciate you. It's not that you're that far behind, though.
I'm not.
I mean, you still have
about
won
like 14 fights behind, my man.
14 fights. Do you know that's still plus 90 fights that you've won on the year?
Yeah. No, I mean, you're sitting at a, you know, 60 percentile. You know, if you look at the graphic here, it'll show you what my brother's done, not only for last card, but just the entirety of this year. 42 events, you know, stayed at a healthy 60% plus, you know, pick ratio. I was, you know, like he said, you know, I'm doing well for myself. I'm in the high 50s, somewhere between 58 and 59%, hoping that maybe last week's picks and then combined with this week's picks, you know, put me over, and then I can, you know, I can brag about a 60%, you know, pick ratio as well. But overall, this has been a great year. Make sure that you check out our guy at UFC Predictions Tracker to see how we stack up against the rest of the field. My bro is top 2 in picks amongst the entire picks and predictions community here on YouTube.
Watch out, little bitch.
You know, which just, you know, further validates us as a channel, you know, so I'm happy with it. And yeah, I mean, once we get to a certain amount of fights and picks and things like that, the tracker will then really, you know, he'll be able to break it down like who in the past, you know, 3 to 6 months has had the best, you know, picking percentage. So I look forward to when our names show up in green, you know, and he starts, you know, revering us as some of the best in the game. And yeah, just keep a lookout, because that's what we're gonna. If we did this good this year, we're just gonna do better next year. I can assure you that.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And we plan to be some of the biggest in this betting sphere, in this pick and prediction sphere. And yeah, outside of that, you got anything?
Nothing. Yeah, I don't got nothing for you right now.
It
I'm
sounds
just
like Diesel wanted to, you know, say what's up real quick before the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited to to have gone on this journey with you. You know what I mean, over this last year, and I'm excited to continue it on next year. So,
oh yeah, definitely. Much love. Well, folks, with that being said, we wish y'all nothing but the best. Good luck with your picks and predictions. Happy betting. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. You know, by the time we see you, January 11th is when things start back up again. So we'll see you for that fight night card. And until then, we out.
Goddamn Diesel.
I know.
Fucker.